Hello YouTube, Marielle here. So this is going to be a continuation of me disclosing really all that I have discovered so far inside my wolf's computer and as well as his flash drives. And I'll use as well this opportunity to explain as well some of the connections that I've made between some of his actions and some of the stuff that I have found out. And this is going to take quite a while, and for that reason I'm gonna have to break those files again. I'm gonna have to break this video into a few different parts, and and I can only hope that you know, most of you will be patient enough with me and stick it out with me. And so to start with, I will have to say that well, first of all, I want to thank all of you who have participated and came with your own opinions of what you think you know, my wolf may have done, and the meaning of some of the stuff that that he has done, that I discussed in my previous video, and you know, there were an awful lot of suggestions that quite frankly just never crossed my mind, and then I can see the probable the possibility of those things being the possibility of your suggestions being actually right. But anyway, for now I will just continue with my little disclosure of my little discovery. When talking about that man, that Hispanic man that kept coming over and over, you know, his name, his family, his stuff, his picture, his family pictures, constantly coming back on my husband's files. What I've actually gathered is that that man actually works in a very close situation with my husband. That man actually works in the same company as my husband and in the same department too. And although it, you know, it isn't very clear, it looks like they may have met in 2004 or 2003, and it does even appear that the decision, or my husband's decision, to move here in the States was possibly driven by that affair. And all the while, my husband made me believe that he actually accepted that job offer in this country to make me happy, because I was the one who, you know, kept talking about, you know, moving out here one day and saying that, you know, it'll be a great opportunity for all of us, and you'll be a great, you know, it's something I wanted to experience. And for years, my husband made me feel guilty about the fact that he moved here to please me, because the way he explained it was that in order to come here, he had to accept not only a demotion, it was a demotion for him to accept the job position over here, but he also had to take a pay cut. And now I'm actually finding out the complete opposite, that he didn't move here for me, there is a 95% chance that he moved here because of that affair with another man. I also discovered that during the 3 transferred he had since we actually moved to live here in the States, that colleague of his got transferred along with him too. So basically that man that man's career basically has been following my husband's wherever he has been transferred all this time since we've been here. Now, another thing I would like you to bear in mind is that over the years, I have become acquainted or have known or have heard of his colleagues, and friends. Even if some of them, I cannot say that I know all of them. I cannot say that. But certainly, I heard a lot of names being repeated over and over throughout the years. And yet my wolf has never mentioned, even in passing, that man's name, or even mentioned to me that he had been invited by that couple, that family, several times over to their home while he was in town. Especially when I think that with other family, he has never had any problems, as far as I know, talking about other families, and going and seeing other families, colleagues of his that invited him. I mean, a lot of time he'll just go with the kids. Sometimes I'll go, but not very often, because it just depending on how I felt, and most of the time I was depressed and just not feeling all that great. So I haven't done an awful lot of socializing since we've come into that country compared to the previous years. So, but despite that, he always told me, I'm going, such and such place, or this couple have invited me, or I'm meeting such and such at a bar, and we're going to be drinking, or whatever that is. And sometimes the kids will go along. So why on earth the name of that man and the name of that family never crossed his lips since we've been here? I'm not crazy. I know I've never heard that man's name. So it is extremely suspicious that suddenly, all of a sudden, in all of his private stuff in his computer, that man's name and picture and that family's picture is popping all over the place, and there is absolutely no one else's information beyond my own and the children in his computer. There is no other family. There is no other picture of another person in his computer, except a few pictures of how do you call that? Some of the trips and his other colleagues, and when they actually have those big get-together, in those foreign countries, and meeting the people who are hosting events and stuff like that. So it is extremely suspicious. I have even seen pictures, well, those pictures are now in my possession, of my husband cooking and entertaining that man with his wife in his apartment in Singapore. And let me tell you, knowing my husband, unless he's having an affair with both the husband and the wife, like one person wrote in the comment section that he could be a swinger. So unless this is a threesome of some sort, or some weird things like that happening, knowing my husband must have been experiencing a major orgasm, mental orgasm, to be able to rub it, into that poor, clueless woman's face. I'm sure of it. Now that I know my guy, and now that I put everything together in my mind and all of the things that I've learned, and oh boy. And also from the different kind of paperwork my wolf has got on this man, I am actually given the impression that my husband may even have helped this man get hired by my husband's company. I'm almost pretty sure of that. For now, I will move on to all the different reasons that led me to conclude that my husband has been having affairs, not only with females, but also with males. And I'm going to go on to detail as well different incidents and stuff that has happened that encourages me to actually think that my husband most probably has had male encounters. Now, about 3 Christmas ago, my children and I joined my wolf in Singapore, and on my first day there, when I got inside his bedroom, I found a very long, thick, single strand of hair. And I remember picking it up, looking at it, feeling quite puzzled, looking around. The bed was made, the place was clean, and there was that single piece of hair, strand of hair, sticking to the duvet cover. So I picked it up, and very innocently and very casually, I went to ask him, who did that hair belong to? Our children were very close by, when I actually asked that question. They were actually playing video game, and they were literally right there. And I swear, he just looked straight at me, raised his shoulders, and said with a smooth voice and a straight face that he had just no idea how that hair got there. And the way I actually myself asked him about that hair, I asked him in a very teasing tone. I was actually, even when I asked that question, it just never crossed my mind that, what I was actually holding on to was a proof that something was a proof of his disloyalty. Because he really truly had me thoroughly convinced about his love for me and his very traditional type of character and type of person. And even with such a damning clue right in front of me, I honestly just did not connect the dot at all. It's only months after that incident that I started to question the whole thing. Because, obviously sometimes when it occurred to me then that during our stay there, he had no help, who came to clean the place. And from what I understood at the time, he wasn't doing much entertaining. And even if he did, why was that hair in his bedroom? Then as soon as my thoughts reached that question, another memory came back to me. and it was a memory of an exact same situation which happened several years before. And at the time, he lived alone in the south of France. And once more, the children and I joined him, you know, to spend some holidays of some sort. Obviously, the kids were out of school, and we joined him. And the same thing happened again. I did find a single strand of hair, and that hair was mid-length, and it was ginger in color. And I do remember feeling very suspicious. I do remember, compared to that time in Singapore where I just wasn't suspicious at all, that other time in France, I was very suspicious. And but despite that, I didn't ask any questions. And much later on, I actually met a female colleague of his who was a very lovely woman, very, very nice, an Irish lady, who was happily engaged to a man who also traveled a lot. And this female came often at our home, and you know, I was entertaining everybody, and she came, you know, I invited her quite often at home, and then she would come, you know, with other couples and with other male colleagues of my husband. And you know, she wasn't a girly type of female. She was very much one of the guys, being an engineer herself, and in a department where there was only mostly guys, you know, she really was one of the guys. And her hair was exactly the same as that piece of strand that I did find, you know, mid-length and ginger. Well, when I say ginger, it wasn't ginger. It was kind of auburny, brown, not brown. Well, brown and ginger, that kind of color. But once I got to know her, and she gained my trust, and eventually I let my suspicion rest, thinking that, you know, yes, that's probably, and it looks like it has to be your hair, but that was something that, you know, can happen, you know, maybe she scratched her head and then she lost her hair, you know. But now that I think about it, you know, I'm actually now thinking that we used to do an awful lot of entertaining, and because of that, we had an awful lot of people coming in and out of our homes, and I did an awful lot of cleaning, and I don't remember spending my time picking up people's hair all over the place because they scratch their heads or they spend time inside my home. I don't know about you, but I seriously don't remember that happening. So why on earth did I find that woman's hair, I'll just call it ginger hair, in my home? And once more, it was inside his bedroom. But then again, like I have expressed in my previous video, the truth of the matter is, even if I had been convinced of his infidelity at the time, I still would have done nothing, and I still wouldn't have confronted him and been extremely pissed off at him. Because like I've explained, you know, it's obvious that I had already been primed to accept, you know, this kind of behavior from men. And And I also made a very clear choice to prioritize my duties and my relationship with my children, to make sure that, you know, they were stable, and which really meant that by making that choice, I knew that my husband and I will have to live separate lives for a while, at least until the children went to university. They left for university. And because of that, I was prepared for my husband to stray at some point. You know, I didn't think that, I never thought that he will be faithful to me forever. You know, I didn't wish it on myself, but I just didn't know what else I could do. I had to make a choice, and those are the choices that I made. So as you can see, or as you can judge, or as you can imagine, I was prepared for that kind of cheatation, like Wendy Williams likes to say. But cheating with another man was most definitely never on my radar. So even though my evidence so far could still be considered by some very, very circumstantial, I think it is fair for me to have come to truly think, based on those strange occurrences, that my husband has been unfaithful to me. With females. And now let me share with you small series of events which at the time meant nothing to me, but now all of those events have taken on a whole new meaningful dimension that just blows my mind. The first thing that comes to mind is that I noticed that my wolf never, ever paid attention or looked at other females. Every time I was with him, it didn't matter who passed in front of us. It didn't matter who was pretty. It didn't matter whether they wore something that was very suggestive. It didn't matter if maybe they shimmied in front of him. He never looked. He never did. And when I started to notice this, I thought at the time that I was a very, very lucky woman. And I quickly attributed this to being another proof of how much he loves and adores me, and just how committed he is to me. But for some reason I can't explain, about 4 years ago, one day I blurted out, that fact to him. And I swear there was no judgment on my part. And I did not expect or ask for an explanation. It was just a case of, you never look at women. I never seen you look at women, or something like that. But what happened next, because of that remark, changed an awful lot of things. And I tell you, from that point on, my wolf started looking at every female that passed us in a very, very blatant way. And I couldn't help but feel like he was punishing me for some reason. And all I could think was, damn, how stupid am I to actually have mentioned this, said anything. Gosh, I really cursed myself, you know. And now that he was doing that, I couldn't blame him, or I couldn't get upset with him, because he probably felt like I thought he was a weirdo or something. So he probably felt that he had to do this or something, some weird thing like that. This is what I ended up thinking, and I really beat myself up for this. And like I mentioned also before in my previous video, is that I do come from a place and a family where males don't behave very well. All of them are skirt chasers, like we like to call them, and cheating is very much a national sport, you know. So for me, having a husband who never paid attention to other females, it was very unusual. And even though it was very odd, even though it was very flattering and very reassuring, I certainly did feel, you know, I did ask myself, no, I didn't even ask myself, I don't know what I was thinking, you know. I was pleased, but at the same time I was just not used to it, that's all. I didn't have any preconceived notion of somebody who was respectful in that way. I did not have a prejudgment, a preconceived notion one way or the other. To me, it was just, I was just not used to it, that's all. But anyway, the second weird thing that I remember happening is that my husband starting to tell me, and this is, I would say, roughly about the same time as he started looking at other females, roughly the same period of time, where he's starting to tell me, you know, how males in Singapore paid attention to him all the time, you know. And then he also started to talk about male, you know, even about teenage girls paying compliments to him every time he came home for a visit. And at first, I was happy for him, because my wolf has always had this aura, or this demeanor, or this, you know, this thing that came off of him, that he was unsure, that, you know, he's shy. There was always that contradiction there, you know. But certainly he came across as not very assertive. And knowing his need to be acknowledged and appreciated and admired, you know, which to me was the way I understood that side of his personality, the way I understood it, to me, it just showed a deep type of insecurity, which I did my best as a caring person, not as a weak person, but as a caring person, as a nurturer, and as a person committed to my love for my husband, to try to prop him up and make him feel good about himself, was to just be simply happy for him, that I could see that, you know, people, from what he was saying, since he's never, you know, in 20-something years we've been together, he's never mentioned that. So to me, it was a case of he's coming into his own and he's more relaxed, and people are probably noticing, people are paying him compliments and paying attention to him. And to me, that was a good thing. My mind did not think or registered or I'm not the suspicious kind of person. That does not make me stupid. That does not make me weak. That does not make me all of those things. I was happy for my husband because of the image he projected to me on a daily basis. The only thing is that after a while of this carrying on and on and on, I started to wonder, why on earth did he keep continuing? Me, myself, every now and then, I got compliments, from both sexes, but I don't spend my time bringing it up to him. I don't see the point. Why would anybody do this? And I started to wonder if this was normal, or if it was just me being insecure, or if he was being insensitive, insensitive. And I also starting to wonder if he was trying to force me to become insecure. But whichever way that was, I just could not figure it out. It just did not sit right with me, because it was becoming a little bit too repetitive and on his part rather insistent, and I didn't think it was proper. But then again, I didn't make a big fuss of it. What you gonna say? Start a fight and start saying that what's wrong with you, what you do, why are you doing that? He would have answer back to me, what's wrong with you, can I not talk to you? This is nothing. That's me just opening up to him, and then I would have ended up looking like a fool. So it's best just to, the way I see it, to just let it slide, because you can't spend your life always jumping on everything and thinking the worst and starting fights. It's just not how I function. But anyway, going back to the weird things he did, is that one day, again, this is quite recent, like probably 2 years ago, I would say. Yeah, I think it was about 2 years ago. Out of the blue, my wolf, out of the blue, as I was making my way to my bedroom to pick up something from the kitchen. I remember from the kitchen, I was making my way to the bedroom, and my wolf starting to wander out loud to himself, but obviously was talking to me. And he was basically talking out loud about his theory about how men, even normal men, do become homosexuals. And he went on to explain that, because male have this competitive nature, and they like to compete with each other, and looking at each other's muscles all the time and compare and compete, and that's probably what makes them become homosexuals. Now, when he came out with that, I was surprised. And the reason why I was surprised is because my wolf, my mind didn't go and jump straight to the fact that, my man is gay. No, my mind went into thinking, that man never shares his idea. That man never talks. That man never discusses ideas or theories on anything. It's me who usually blather my mouth about all different sort of subjects and what I think, and it's me who normally does that. My husband never. He just stays there, listens, and gives no feedback. So again, for me, it was a case of, wow, really, I was thinking that really what most people say, that, you know, aging is sometimes, for some people, it's a very positive, it does wonder to people's character, because it softens them and they change. And to me it was like, this is working. This man, you know, is opening up in ways that he never had before. So therefore I was happy. To me, it proved that he was comfortable. He was starting to feel comfortable with me and relaxed, and he was starting to share, you know, a little bit of his thought process with me, and I was glad of that. I was happy. I was actually celebrating that little breakthrough. But now, with everything that I know and everything that I've learned, and obviously now I can see that this had nothing to do with what I was thinking, and this definitely touched into the territory of what they call narc speech. This is where narcissists, people, have a way of communicating that which actually expose their deceptions to the people who are close to them. And but they do it in such a way that most people, just the victim, just cannot take it seriously, because it's so bold. What they seem to admit, you know, is delivered with either sarcasm, or is just so incredibly impossible in you know, in the victim normal way of thinking, that they cannot fathom that what is actually being said to them is the truth. Because it's just most of those statements, or you know, or admissions, are usually crazy. And no, I'm not crazy. No, I don't have a dirty mind. No, I don't have a suspicious mind. No, I don't think on that level. So therefore I could not see and I cannot know that this man is actually saying something that is very probable. I don't think like that. At least I didn't at the time. Certainly now it's a whole new ball game, but certainly at the time, no, my mind just doesn't function like that. So it can be very difficult for me, for instance, at this point, with all the things that I know and all the things that I've learned, it's very difficult to actually figure out why they actually feel the need to come up with those admissions. And you know, if you don't mind, I'm going to give you a few of my theories here. And obviously I'm not saying that it's exactly, you know, what's going on in their head, because I'm not twisted like that. But certainly I can try to make a few suggestions based on some of the things that he has done and how things did develop over a long period of time, based on the stuff that he had said, you know, years before, months before, as usual. So one of the commonly held belief is that narcissists, psychopaths, very much so, like, you know, like my husband, those people, they have tons of skeletons in their closets. They have so many secrets that they always have to hold on to, that sometimes it is possible that that way of actually coming out with some truth, you know, throwing out, spewing out some truth, is actually a way of actually relieving that pressure. So that is one way of seeing, of understanding that narc speech. The other way as well of seeing it is that, especially again, based on my own experience, knowing who my husband is I'm actually thinking as well that it also could possibly be a part of, part of getting their mental candies or their mental masturbation on, because it's all part of having power or having, knowing something that the victim doesn't know, therefore them being ahead, therefore them being in control compared to the victim. So this gives them some kind of mental pleasure in that they can assert their self-image of that power and control that they hold over their victims. This is what I think could possibly be why they use that kind of narc type of speaking. My last theory about why they could possibly be doing this also is because I think that maybe this is a way of for them to leave small crumbs for the victim to eventually follow. From what I've learned so far, and especially for the highly functioning